Hello everybody and welcome back to another Taylor Swift video. Now this video is going to be about her album Red, obviously Taylor's version. Now Red Taylor's version is subjectively one of my favorite albums. I guess for me it would be objectively, but yeah. Red Taylor's version is one of my favorite albums. I would put Reputation 1989 over it. Level and Red are really close. So for me, Red is sometimes over it, and then sometimes Level is over it. Right now, I would definitely say like Reputation 1989, Red, Level, blah. Especially with how I listen to albums, I would 100% say I would actually put 1989 over Reputation, but that's also just because, especially after 1989 TV came out, I nonstop listened to it for like 2 weeks. It's so good, and it's one of my favorite albums from her. The topic of Red Taylor's version. So, the album Red originally came out in I want to say 2012, 2013. I know that she was seeing Jake Gyllenhaal, or at least he was the big boyfriend of this album, or ex, I should say. And I know that Red was put up for Album of the Year at the Grammys. I think the Grammys. But it didn't win it because it wasn't sonically cohesive. And that's why we got and then that's where 1989 comes in, because if you listen to she says it in an interview, but also if you listen to the vault tracks on 1989, they're drastically different than the original tracks on the album. But Red, Red was originally only like 20, maybe, I want to say it was originally like 17 songs. And then we got Taylor's version, and now the album is 30 songs in all. This album so far is this is the biggest vault track we record dump that we've gotten from her. I will say there's some pretty good vault tracks on there. I need to look at them, but Come Back, Be Here, Better Man, Babe, Message in a Bottle, I Bet You Think About Me, Forever Winter, The Very First Night, All Too Well 10-minute version. Like, we got some banger vault tracks on this. But even with those bangles, it's still not my favorite vault list. I would say that my favorite vault list is probably either I'd probably say Speak Now, honestly. The big things in her life for Red were she had just broken up with Jake Gyllenhaal, or at least, we perceived that she was just broken up with Jake Gyllenhaal. And also, when she wrote the album, it was put up for Album of the Year, but it didn't win because it wasn't sonically cohesive. And that's pretty much the only thing I know about what was happening during Taylor's life. Taylor was 20, I want to say 23, 24. She was around 22, which is why we got the song 22. But she was a little older than 22, because 22 is kind of like a let's act like we're 22. Let's just party and all that stuff. But that's pretty much all I know. I will either link in the description, or I'll put her name up on the screen as well. I'll do one of those two things or both of those. I don't know. But there was one person who really gets into the nitty gritty of it that I really like. Her name is Ali Sheen, I think. I hope I'm remembering that correct. But she gets really deep into everything that happened during the time of the album that was written and all that. But yeah. So Lead for me, as I said, I would put that at a, I guess out of 11 now, but since I haven't heard Total Poets about me let, I would put it at a 4 out of 10 out of whole albums. Um, but standalone, this album gets a solid 8 out of 10. It's a beautifully written album. It has so many feels to it. I feel like this album was when she was starting to transition between country and pop, transition from country to pop. And it's kind of has a little bit of everything. There's a little bit of country in it. There's a little bit of pop. There's a little bit of rock. Uh, there's a little bit of country pop. There's a little bit of country rock. There's a little bit of pop rock. um, so this is just a little bit of everything. Um, and we got Taylor's version after Folklore and Evermore. They were Red was the second we recorded. We got Fearless, Taylor's version first, and then we got Red. Um, I feel like that was intentional too, but who knows? Everything she does is for a reason, so we know that. But I would definitely rate this album a solid 8 out of 10. The songs and lyrics themselves, I would still say that I would probably give them a lower score just because uh, she's still kind of young. I mean, she's my age, so she is compared to compared to her age now and like what she's gone through and how she's grown as a person. She is still pretty young, um, and she's. I kind of almost want to say this album feels like her growing up album. Like debut, Fearless, and Speak Now kind of feel like like when she's baby, um, when she's still young and kind of not necessarily stupid, but doesn't know how the world works, I guess. Um, and then Red, we get this kind of transitional, like it's a transitional album between her country and her pop career or genres. It feels like a transitional album in her life as well, because she goes from that high school teary-eyed I'm in love person to love's complicated, and you know what? We'll all heal for the ride. um, and this album definitely feels like we'll all heal for the ride, and it's kind of a roller coaster of everything. um, but in that note, I would say song and lyrics wise, I'd probably only give it a 5 or 6 out of 10. It's got some really good songs on it, like the Vault songs I mentioned earlier in the video, or Red, All Too Well, 5-minute version, All Too Well, 10-minute version. They're both amazing. But I really only listen to the 10-minute version now. Um, Stay, 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 Sad, Beautiful, Tragic. Songs like those, that just, all the full albums have great songs on them. Red is my favorite. Red is my favorite album that I do have skips on. Because 1989, Reputation, Level, I don't have any skips on. But Red, I still have some skips on. It's only 2 songs I skip. And it's like all those three. It's like Ronin, Nothing New, and where was it? I think it's The Last Time, but I'm not exactly sure. Um, I would have to heal the song again and be like, okay, yeah, that's the one I skipped. I don't, as you can tell, I don't listen to Ed on like a. I mean, I end up listening to Taylor on a Taylor basis. I end up listening to Taylor on a daily basis, but it really just depends on what songs come through my phone at that time, or if I'm listening to the album, listening to the vinyl, and then I just listen to songs. But I know it was a really short video. Maybe I will actually do some research for Speak Now and Fearless, and Debut. But I know a lot about Reputation in that time period, and I will also know a lot about Tortured Poets Department, and for any album she makes going forward, because I actually pay attention to her now. Like I said, 1989 was like the last era that I kind of stopped paying attention. Oh, that I. It was the last era that she had where I like didn't know she existed, which it kind of amazes me that I didn't know that Taylor Swift was a big artist until Reputation. Like, to me, that makes me think that I may have known some of her songs earlier than Reputation, but I honestly can't remember. I can't think that far back. I can't remember that far back, before hearing "Look What You Made Me Do," as the I believe it came out as a single before the whole album dropped, but I can't think past or before "Look What You Made Me Do," um, hearing that for the first time. I can't I can't think about any songs that I may have heard beforehand. Um, I feel like I feel like I should have. Like, it should have been obvious, but I don't know. And since I didn't have a lot to talk about Ed, and I don't have a lot to talk about Fearless as well, I figured I'd mash them two together. So here is my review on Fearless. Now that we've gone through Ed, um, my video for Speak Now will come out after this one, but let's talk about Fearless. So Fearless was one of those albums that I originally didn't care for too much. It's her second album that she ever wrote, so she was still in her country songwriting. Debut and Fearless are really country, and then Speak Now is kind of country, little bit of rock, little bit of pop, and then Red just everything, and then 1989 goes to pop. Um, but this was her last like truly country album. Um, and I will say I only liked maybe about 6 or 7 songs on it, but after Taylor's version came out, I ended up liking most of the songs on it. There's only a few songs that I don't like. Um, the vault tracks on Fearless, I would say out of all the real codes, Fearless is probably my fourth favorite vault tracks, which right now that's last place. Um, I have a feeling that Debut vault tracks will be my least favorite, but we won't know that until Debut comes out. Um, and I think I'm gonna love Reputation's vault tracks, so we'll see. Anyway, Fearless. Fearless, at the time of this recording, I don't know anything about what's happening during Debut and Fearless recordings, because um, I wasn't into her then. I haven't. People don't really talk about it as much as the Speak Now era, Speak Now and Beyond eras. Um, It just seems like Debut and Fearless are kind of whatever. I would probably say out of all of the We Records, Fearless is my least favorite We Record. It's not surprising because as of right now, we have Fearless, Wed, 1989, and Speak Now. Um, and I just like all those other albums better than Fearless. But Fearless to me is very feel good album. Most of the songs to me are like you listen to them when you just want to feel good. That's not to say those other songs that aren't for that, like White Horse is not a good song for that. 15 is also not a good song for that. Um, but like you get songs that are like today's was Fairy Tale Love Story, You Belong With Me, uh, The Way I Loved You, Forever and Always, The Best Day. Um, but it's a feel good album for the most part, in my opinion. I would rank Fearless. I'd probably rank it a 9 out of 10 for me. And it used to be, because it used to be above Folklore and Evermore for me, but then I just found a new appreciation for Folklore and Evermore. So Fearless is number 9 for me, and then like Debut's 10, Fearless is 9, and then it's something like, and then I think it's I've written it down, but I think it's like Speak Now, Evermore, Speak Now, Fearless. Sorry, Evermore, Speak Now, Folklore. I don't know exactly. Maybe I'll make a video showing you some of the charts that I've made following Taylor Swift and her albums and all that. Um, but that's for a future date. Lyrically, I would give Fearless out of 10. I would give Fearless probably 5 or 6 out of 10 because there's a lot of good lyrics. There's a lot of good, not necessarily symbolism in it, but there's a lot of good like explaining things well and like allegories and all that. Um, and for Hull still being in high school while writing this, it's amazing. Which I know she didn't write the songs, or it wasn't completely self-written. She doesn't self-write until Speak Now. Speak Now is really when she starts like writing her own songs. She still gets help. She still has other people write her songs as well, but she doesn't really like pop off. She doesn't really pop off as a songwriter till the Speak Now album. Um, but for her to put, but I'm just saying, to produce, be able to produce two albums, Debut and Fearless, while still in school, like still in high school, that's insane to me. Like I believe she was in I believe she was in high school for Fearless, and she was maybe either she was like in late middle school for I want to see that's the thing. I want to say she was in late middle school for Debut, but I don't think she was. I think she was starting high school when she wrote Debut, and then she was kind of finishing high school or getting to that point of finishing high school when she wrote Fearless. Um, but still, to write two completely well written and great albums while in school is insane. Um, it just amazes me because I could never be able to do it. um, but the and then Fearless on its own, like as an album of its own entity, not ranking it against any of the others, I would probably give it a 7 out of 10. Solely for the fact that that most of the songs are really, really good on this album. And we got some really, really banger songs from this album, like You Belong With Me, Tell Me Why, The Way I Loved You, If Today Was Fit, sorry, Coming with the Rain, Today Was a Fairy Tale, um, and what is it? Oh yeah, You're Not Sorry. Um, so this album's a really good album, and even when I rank the albums low on Taylor Swift, low, I still love them. Like I still like when I talk about debut, I'll talk about it more, but I still like debut, even though there's really only like maybe 5 songs off of debut that I like right now, which again, it'll probably change once debut TV comes out, but there's only really 5 songs that I like off that album right now. So it's not, but it's not that I hate the album, it's just that I'm not into country as much as I'm into pop. So it's it's the different the varying different genres that play a role into how well I like albums. And you can see that in my ranking too, which I might show you guys my ranking in a later video, but I pretty much have the country albums at the bottom, then the indie albums, the indie folk albums, whatever you want to call them, and then all the pop albums. And that's kind of just how it's played out, just because those are the genres I prefer. And that's not to say I don't like some country songs better than pop. Like You Belong With Me is very, very high on my list, and it even beats out, which, to be fair, you could argue that You Belong With Me is country pop. Um, but You Belong With Me beats out quite a few songs on 1989. Like, it's just preferences. But I know that wasn't a lot to say about Fearless. I'll probably have even less to say about Debut. Um, but that's pretty much Fearless. I guess I can tell you, but I can't tell you much about what happened on the original release of Fearless, but I could tell you a little bit about what was happening in the when TV was released. TV was released in 2021, so we were still in the height of the pandemic, but the pandemic was like ebbing ever so slightly. But that year we got Fearless early in that year, and then we got Red later in that year. Kind of like how we got Folklore early in 2020 and then Evermore later in 2020. We got Fearless TV early in 2021 and then Red in later 2021. And then we got Midnights in 2022. Um, and then 2023 we got Speak Now and 1989. And now in 2024 we're getting Tortured Poets Department. And there's speculation that there was good evidence towards getting Web TV in late 2024. There's also some evidence that we'll get both of the TVs before the end of 2024, like before the Airs tour ends. But there's not a lot to say. The only thing we can be sure of is that Reputation TV is next. I didn't have much to say about Fearless because I didn't even know who Taylor Swift was. I didn't know who Taylor Swift was until Reputation era, and um, Like I said at the beginning of talking about Fearless, she didn't. No one really talks about what was happening during her life when she would debut in Fearless. It all kind of starts at Speak Now and then forward. Um, but like I said, I'll link that person down. I'll link that woman down below who talks about all of it. She's amazing. She's great. Go watch her. Go support her. She can tell you a lot more about Taylor Swift than I can. Um, but this is my Taylor Swift video for Lead and Fearless. And I will see all of you in the next one.